He's on the way up. Okay. Could you kindly stand as we welcome the Premier? Kindly be seated. A pleasant morning to all, and welcome to yet another of our monthly press conferences. I bid a special welcome to members of Cabinet who are here with us this morning, permanent secretaries, heads of departments, senior government officials, and of course, you, the members of the press corps. This morning, the press conference, the format of the press conference is as follows. The Premier will make his statement, will make his remarks, then you, the members of the press corps, will be given the opportunity to ask your question. Yes, questions. No grandstanding, and as always, no editorial, please. You're kindly asked to turn your phones off or to please put them on silence. I'm very much aware that you're not here this morning to look at my face or to even hear my voice. So join me, please, in
Thank all the prominent secretaries and members of the press who are here, and let's get to it. I start where I always do by congratulating those who would have done well, and I start with congratulating our independence awardees, Carl Claxton and Brian Powell in the area of business, education, we had Gwyneth Maynard and Josette Myers, entertainment, Bernard Nutsy Thompson, community service, Colin Tyrrell, public service, Laurie Lawrence, healthcare, Ermin Jeffers, and in the area of electricity, the one and only Elvis Starr Maynard. Those were our independence awardees here in Nevis. I want to congratulate them. For fishing, Mr. Franklin Daniel. I also want to congratulate this year's recipients from Nevis of the Companion of Star Merit Award, Mr. Augustine Merchant for agriculture, development in service to the nation, Mr. Lester Blackett for sports, Mr. Antonio Abernathy Libert for culture, Mr. Everett Weber Herbert for broadcasting, Mrs. Erlene Maynard for education, and Mrs. Alice Swanston for education and community outreach. So I want to join the chorus in congratulating these divisions for their service and for the recognition of their service. That is, to my mind, very important, that we continue to recognize each other when we do well. I also want to extend congratulations to our Governor General, His Excellency Sir Tapley Seaton, who received an honorary doctorate in law from the University of the West Indies for outstanding public service. This was done on the 12th of October in Antigua and Barbuda, and I think it is a signal honor for a man who has had an incredible life of service to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Congratulations also to Mr. Fyron Lawrence, another Nevisian, but who makes his home and works on St. Kitts. He has become the first honorary consul of the Republic of Indonesia in St. Kitts and Nevis, and I was delighted to be there at the inauguration of the consulate for Indonesia. I like to say diplomacy matters, and so this is an example of that diplomacy at work. Congratulations to another Nevisian. Sounds like a long list today. Another Nevisian, Mr. Hilary Brandy, who has now been named as our Commissioner of Police, effective the 1st of June, 2019. Congratulations to him indeed, and I wish that he does well, because when he does well, all of us benefit. 2 police officers stationed in Nevis were recently promoted, and I would want to congratulate them both. Corporal O'Dane was promoted to acting sergeant, and Corporal Maloney was also promoted to acting sergeant. Congratulations to them both. My list of congratulations is quite long. I want to congratulate as well Mr. Stuart Williams, my friend, former schoolmate. He is a former West Indies cricket player, as we know. He's now been named the head coach of the Leeward Islands Hurricane franchise cricket team, and his appointment takes effect from the 1st of October of this year until 31st July 2021. So he has good tenure, tenure from now until 31st July, and we certainly join in congratulating Stuart Williams for his ascension to the position of head coach of the Leeward Islands Hurricanes. And while we're in cricket, of course, I have to congratulate Kyron Powell, Kezron Archibald, Jason Campbell, and reserve young Ross Powell for making the Leeward Islands cricket team. And I believe it should be said that Kezron is from Brownhill. That I think is always important. The first leg of the tournament starts on November 6th through December 1st, and that will be held in St. Kitts. And so congratulations to these youngsters. Unless you feel that we are only excelling in sport, congrats to young Orion Stapleton, who I believe is the son of Dr. Ernie Stapleton, our permanent secretary. He's a student at UVI. He has won the UVI 20th Annual Fall Student Research Symposium. His research was carried out over the summer at MIT, very, very important global institution, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. It involved the analysis of cancer cell data sets using different machines, learning techniques to compare the method's effectiveness in identifying new insights about the data. I'm not so sure what that means, but it clearly sounds impressive. Sounds impressive. He was a top scorer in the contest, and he wins a travel award to the annual Emerging Researchers National Conference in Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics in February 2020 in Washington, D.C. So congratulations to young Orion and to his parents, obviously, Dr. Stapleton and his family. I would also like to congratulate the executive and members of the Windward in Action, WINA, St. James Community Group. They were selected as recipients of the Organization of Women of the Americas project, a grant award of US $7,000. The impressive winning project proposal entitled Project Greater Heights will equip the youth with skills that empower them to meet the economic challenges that they are facing. Among the activities being funded are computer classes for grassroots marginalized women. Our ambassador, Everson Hull, our ambassador to the OS, he received the award on behalf of WINA, and he also donated US $2,000 of his personal funds towards the project. I think that really is something to be commended. And also to be commended is that WINA was started by our own, the Honorable Hazel Brandy Williams in 2014. I think that is also important. I would also want to announce and to congratulate Mr. Gilroy Pulte of St. Lucia. He has been named as the new NEVLEC General Manager. His tenure is going to be for 2 years, and I hope to get to a comment about what NEVLEC is doing shortly. But I want to welcome Mr. Pulte to Nevis. He's from St. Lucia. He's a Caribbean national and one of us, and I want to welcome him and to wish him well in his new role at NEVLEC. To move just quickly to a word of condolence, and I would want to use this rostrum to extend my condolences on the passing of Miss Celia Martin Powell. Miss Celia Martin Powell, I think, was a very special Nivision. She was the oldest person in the Federation, and she passed away at 107 years old. I think that her life is clearly a life to be celebrated. Her longevity that God has given her was something to be celebrated. And I would want to recognize that, the fact that she got there to 107, and also to, of course, extend condolences to those that survive her. And so Miss Celia Martin Powell is no longer with us, but she was with us for 107 years. And I believe, as we say, to God be the glory for that. So I'm certainly delighted that she lived that long, and send my condolences to her family on her passing. The NHL, the City of Nevis, is hosting a Land Development Corporation in conjunction with Social Security, launched a very important project, University Heights, and that is at Lower Spring Hill Estate. I think that project was launched on October 24th, and it is a very important project, and I am just trying to get you here some details. Why? Because I think that project is one of those projects that is demonstrative of the efforts of this government. The project was launched, and University Heights, Spring Hill Estate, St. James Parish, Nevis. The project is 3.25 acres, and it offers 13 lots at an average of a quarter acre each. So these lots are a little bigger, I think, than the usual lots that we would see. The main objective is to offer a piece of the soil to those who have studied abroad. And this is the headline. This land is being sold at EC $1 per square foot. $1 EC per square foot. You can't even buy peace of mind for that price. It is $1 EC per square foot. And what is the requirement? You must be a citizen. You must be residing and working in Nevis for at least 5 years after graduating from university. And you must be able to present a copy of your university certificate. And importantly, you must be a first-time homeowner. So if you have a home already, this program is not for you. But this was a commitment that we made to our university students to try and encourage some of them who have come back, to give them a start, if you will. We understand some are burdened by student loans and the like, and we thought that this was an initiative that should be done. Now, of particular note in relation to this particular program, that the funding was provided through Social Security, and we want to thank Social Security. They have really been an excellent application and works. Mr. Spencer Brand, Minister Spencer Brand, the Honorable Spencer Brand, is leading that ministry, and he has been traveling all over the place because he has been invited to attend some very significant events. He, I believe, just came back from Guadeloupe, where they had a session on sargassum, you know, that seaweed that is washing up all over the Caribbean. And I think that that is going to be very helpful to see how we can access financing to deal with some of the remedial actions that are being proposed and the use of sargassum to see how we can convert it to useful applications. Minister Brand was also part of the high-level delegation at the, let me get this right, the Caribbean Water and Wastewater Association Conference, which was held in St. Kitts at the Marriott Resort from 14th to 18th October. And I'm told that those individuals came over at the invitation of Mr. Brand to Nevis and were very impressed. He didn't tell me. I think that's important, that Mr. Brand didn't tell me. But I encountered one of the participants in Miami who accosted me and told me how impressed she was with Mr. Brand and with what they saw in Nevis. And I think that water upgrades in terms of storage. What we now are looking at is how do we get additional water into the system. You have heard us talk about the wells. We had contracted BEAD to drill 2 wells for us. I think that would cost us $10 million. We had agreed to pay BEAD. We had made the down payment. BEAD started the work, but the work was never completed or continued. We're told that 1 well somewhere in the New River area, that 1 well was done but not brought into production. So we're looking to see what we can do in relation to that. We have since terminated the relationship with BEAD. I think I can say that because BEAD has not performed as had been agreed, and we are seeking now to see what we do in relation to them. In the interim, however, we've had this well at Hamilton, which is, I'm told, a good producing well in terms of water, but the water had chemicals in it that meant it could not be used for us human consumption. It didn't come up to the standards set by the World Health Organization for it to be potable water, as they call it. So we have to treat that water. And we took a decision that we couldn't have a well that is a good producing well, and simply because the water had in too much manganese or whatever it is, that we do not use the water. So we have decided to invest in a filtration system where we will treat that water and then put that water into the system, ensuring, of course, always that it is of the standard that is acceptable so that our health is not affected. We did a water contract to Ad Edge, who is a system provider, and I'm told that they were here, met on the site on October 16th to discuss the project scope. Then told the filtration system is actually being manufactured, and we expect that the system will be here mid to late December of this year. Site preparations in the meantime are ongoing, so if you see work happening in the Hamilton area, that is what we're doing as we prepare for the system arrival. Installation and startup, we feel, should occur in January or thereabouts next year. In the meantime, we have had a shipment of a 400,000 gallon AquaStore water storage tank, which has arrived in Nevis recently from Miami. That tank will be installed up at Hamilton in the near future. And I believe that if you've seen the tanks around the island, you know the quality that we're talking about in terms of tanks and the reservoir and storage. So we're doing 2 things in Nevis in relation to water. We're increasing our ability to store water, and we're increasing now our ability to access water. The supply of water is also being increased. And I think that those 2 things naturally go hand in hand. In terms of Major announcements. I'm happy to say that the major works on the Island Main Road project from Cotton Ground to Cliff Dwellers have now been substantially completed. For those who are driving in that area, you now have a highway over there, and we are hopeful if we can come to terms to continue that effort so that we have a consistency in quality around the entire Island Main Road, the Ring Road. I'm, of course, appealing to motorists because when you're on it, you do feel like you can speed. It is so smooth, it is so wide, it is so inviting. But we are urging motorists to be cautious and to adhere to the speed limits. Minor works are still continuing, such as some tying of some side streets and the guardrails, because somebody raised that with me, so I want them to know that there will be guardrails put up because there's a drop-off on some parts of that road. Guardrails will be put up, what they call them guardrail crash barriers. Those will be installed at different locations where the side slope drop-off poses a danger to drivers. We're also going to be putting up signage along the road, and the roads are going to be marked. So you're going to really have a first-class product there in that area. We all know that that area has been a particularly troublesome area for many years. And so the engineers took some time, I believe right there in Cades Bay, where you've always had water settling on the road. They have taken some time to raise the road. And so we hope that the drainage issues have now been settled and we will have a road surface that certainly we can continue with for some time. An important announcement, for those of you who know that area, from Cotton Ground, there was a road coming down by who we call Ozzy that joined the Island Main Road. That road has now been permanently closed. And what we've done is created a different path. The engineers came up with that, they say, for greater safety, because many who came down the road by Ozzy know it was almost a blind corner. They were joining the Island Main Road and really couldn't sometimes tell if there was oncoming traffic. So we have shifted that, and that road by Ozzy is now permanently closed, and so we want the public to know that. In Brownhill, that road work is progressing, and it's going quite nicely. I was able to be there and to look at it myself. We're doing some work now on some culverts, and once those are done, I think that we will be ready to move forward. The asphalting, I'm told, is going to happen. Of it from Mr. Foy, Calvin Foy, former commissioner, out to the Island Main Road, and we feel that this should be done by December. So Mr. Brand has promised the people of Brownhill that by December, if people of Brownhill don't ask me, Mr. Brand has said by December that we are good to go. Craddock Road, preparatory work is being done on the section of Craddock Road from the junction center to Harbour View Housing Development to the junction to the dirt road that takes you to the Charleston Primary School just above the Jeffers property. When the asphalting is completed, the last section for phase 1 will be done up to the Big Rock Junction before public work closes off for this year. So I just wanted you to know that as well. Insofar as Fort Charles land protection and reclamation, I think the cabinet has recently met on that. We are hiring consultants to advise and to equip us with the necessary environmental impact assessment and the necessary design strategy as we move forward. You recall there was a lot of noise. I like to call it noise for what it is. A lot of noise in the public square about Fort Charles and the fact that we had put some rubble from Four Seasons over there. And our explanation then was that we had put it there just to hold it because we had plans to do this project that we hope would reclaim and protect Fort Charles, which, if we are honest, has been falling into the ocean now for some time. If you see it from the ocean side, you realize that the water has created these caverns and the land has been slowly falling in. Some of those buildings that were put over there, in fact, there's one of them I saw recently, half of it is already in the ocean. So we need to do something or we will lose Fort Charles. And we took that decision to store some material there. I know it didn't have the approval of everyone, but I just want the public to know that that was the intention behind it. And now we're moving forward with the consultancy. I believe that two companies, Smith Warner International, which is based in Jamaica, and Green Solutions International Limited, locally based, applied, bid on the project, and we are shortly to advise as to who would have been successful in relation to that particular bid. And so I wanted to make that clear so that everyone understands that we are moving in the right direction in that regard. Now, an announcement, another headline. Ministry of Communication and Works will be having the first ever award ceremony for our contractors, our building contractors on Nevis, on Saturday the 2nd of November at NEPAC. A number of awards will be given, including Lifetime Achievement Awards, Excellence Awards, and Long-Standing Awards. A number of companies and entities have come on board by sponsoring some of the awardees for this grand event. We just want to say thank you and congratulations to all those who will be receiving awards. You know, this government has said that people matter most. Some thought it was just an election slogan, but it really isn't. It informs the ethos of the government and how we feel we ought to manage. Some like it, some don't. We live in a democracy, we understand that that is the nature of democracy. But what I think we're seeking to do here with the Contractors Award is to say that, listen, all of our people in their different fields of endeavor contribute to our island's development. And all of them at some point ought to be recognized for their efforts in nation building. And a lot of these contractors have been around for 30, 40 years. We see their DNA all over Nevis. Sometimes we don't even know. We see buildings and we have no idea who put up those buildings. Buildings that we are in every day. And some of those contractors have never, ever been recognized formally or awarded in any way. So I want to thank Minister Brand and his team for coming up with this initiative. And this initiative, as we say, will be at NEPAC this Saturday, where we will award our contractors and certainly give them the honor, give them the respect that I think they deserve for the work that they've been doing and that they continue to do. Now, we have had the closure of the Brown Hill Communications, where I think just over 130 thereabouts people were impacted negatively because this closure came. And there's been a lot of talk about it, even from myself, in trying to prepare them and prepare the public. They have received their final compensation packages from their employer. Some of them, we're told, have in fact been kept on longer than the period that we had initially been advised, and so we were grateful for that. But I think that the facility now is closed, and that as a consequence, the people have been laid off. I have here with me a press release that had been issued by the Ministry of Labor on St. Kitts, because whilst we have been liaising with and trying to facilitate, I want it to be pellucid that the responsibility for severance pay lies with the Ministry of Labor in St. Kitts, not in Nevis. We don't make those payments from Nevis. And the press release that had been issued on August 14th by the Ministry of Labor in St. Kitts indicated that workers would be paid in October. That was the indication from them and something that we ourselves had said. In fact, I read, through a collaborative effort of the ministries and departments of labor in both St. Kitts and Nevis, the rights of workers of Brown Hill Communications who will be made redundant on September 3rd, 2019 will be protected, and they will receive their severance payments early in October. That was the commitment that was given from the Ministry of Labor in St. Kitts back in August 14th. Now, I am advised that that was delayed because there were some payments that came in, and they had to look at the final tally from Social Security to determine what the severance payment was going to be. And some payments, I'm told, came in early October for workers to Social Security. That is the records and reports on those payments, which had to be tabulated. So as a result, there was a bit of a setback. I just want to assure the workers that we in Nevis have done all that we can. I have been in active conversation with the Minister of Labor, Mr. Brand, Mr. Gary Liebert, the Department of Labor here has been very, very involved in this process. We have had an active exchange and communication and dialogue with the Ministry of Labor in St. Kitts, and I was just handed a note that some 47 persons have already been approved for severance, and this is the first batch. Of course, today is the last day, or there's one more day? Last day today? Of October. So clearly I could understand people are concerned about when they will receive their payment in light of the commitment that had been given that they will get it in early October. And so I am asking for their patience, but also saying to them that certainly we on the Nevis end will continue to do all that we can to push this along. And at least we are told today, as of the note I was just handed, that 47 persons have already been approved and the others are being processed. So let us hope that we can get all this done and that the good people at Brantley Communications will get their money that is due to them and get it shortly. I am pleased, ladies and gentlemen, to announce that the IT department will host its ICT Week 2019 from November 4th to 8th at NEPAC. The theme for this week is content creation and not consumption. IT department recognizes that most of our people consume a lot of what is put on the internet, but we don't create any meaningful content for the same environment. So we are consuming, but not creating, and they want to change that. So the main objective of the week is to present to students, government ministries, departments, and the private sector insights of how they can create content to inform and promote their products and services on the World Wide Web. I'm told they're going to have some very interesting and informative sessions, and certainly I'm inviting all to go out and be a part of that, the ICT Week that starts on November 4th. A few other matters. The Social Services Department, they are indicating that they have just completed an amazing activity. Let me just use that language. And that activity, well, all of the activities are amazing, but of course, they had a pageant. That's what you call it? Seniors pageant. They had a seniors pageant on the 2nd of October at the Cultural Complex. 4 seniors participated. Govani Butler, Janet Grelhull, Josephine Maynard, and Idella Wallace. After a very keenly contested and high standard competition, Idella Wallace of Stony Grove emerged winner. Congratulations to Idella, as well as to the other 3 contestants for putting on what I'm advised was a fantastic show. Special commendation to Joyce and her team for a splendid job in organizing the event. They work really hard with the seniors, and I'm very proud of our team. Seniors Month will climax with an afternoon on the lawns at government headquarters. This is today? Government House today. At Government House today. And so we continue to demonstrate our commitment and our involvement with our seniors and our senior group. And I just want to say that the idea of a seniors pageant, I think only in Nevis you could come up with those kinds of ideas. And it has really proven popular, and the ladies have done a wonderful job. And so Idella, if you're listening, I know in Idella you're going to have to address us Queen Idella now. I want to congratulate you and the entire family for a job well done. The Department of Sports assisted in hosting a baseball clinic on Sunday, October 27th at ETW Park. Baseball. We had 4 officials from the United States who facilitated the clinic, and that was aimed at introducing interested students to the fundamentals of baseball. The U.S. officials also had discussions with the Ministry of Sports and outlined some of the benefits of having baseball being taught and played here on the island. Senior Sports Officer Kelvin Bramble was the local coordinator for the clinic, which was sponsored by Major League Baseball. And I want to thank Kelvin. He's really been doing an excellent job in bringing these various clinics to the island, and may he continue to do so. I also want to advise that the Youth Tape Ball Tournament, Department of Youth, Tape Ball Tournament, will conclude on Sunday, this Sunday, at the ETW Park. 7 teams competed against each other for the past few weeks, and the finals now are set for Sunday. I hope that you would be there. God willing, I hope to be there. And I think that the tape ball cricket is always good fun. And I don't think any of you in here have played cricket, really. But I would have played in my day, so I know it's good fun. So I invite all of you to go and watch some tape ball cricket, the finals at the park on Sunday. We have had some concerns, legitimate concerns raised about the damaged pier in Charlestown. I think that this government has struggled because we were seeking to find the resources to deal with that. We've eventually found some resources, and I'm happy to announce today that the contract has been signed. The cost of the contract, the amount on the contract is US $325,000, $330 to reconstruct the pier in Charlestown, the damaged pier, and that work, we're told, will start November 1st and will continue until it's slated to end on December 23rd. Many in the press may wonder if that will have any disruption on the cruise season. The answer is no, that for the last 2 years we have not been using that particular pier for the cruise season, so we do not anticipate that it will have any disruption. But that contract has been signed with a local company, Sinkits Marine Works Limited, to do the work there. We do apologize to all of those who would have complained and all of those who would have raised legitimate concerns, but we couldn't find the money. And until you find the money, as I say, money makes the mayor go. We needed to find the money. And so we have now found some money, and we are getting that job done. And I certainly would want to commend the management as NASPA, for their efforts in that regard. A bit of unwelcome news, and that is Pier. We are all looking forward to the return of Pier to Nevis from November 22nd. They have just advised they've had to change the date when they will start that service to December 12th. And the reason for that is a bit of equipment called an explosive detection machine, EDM machine, explosive detection machine, has to be procured in order to allow them to do what it is they want to do. So they've delayed their re-entry into Nevis. We do apologize for that, but it is something that has been unavoidable. If I can switch to the Ministry of Health very quickly, just to indicate that we are very happy that through the efforts of the Pan American Health Organization and their country specialist, Ms. Katrina Smith, the Environmental Health Department in Nevis was the recipient, a very grateful recipient, of 6 tablets and 2 microscopes. These tablets will be used for collecting real-time data in the field, and which will further help develop the competencies of vector control officers in using spatial data and the quantum geographical information system. The ministry recognizes that mosquito surveillance and species identification is fundamental in strengthening vector control strategies and responding to outbreaks, and so we are equipping ourselves to do better in that regard. The Ministry of Health and Gender successfully launched the SKN Moves Nevis chapter on the 4th October 2019. The launch is an initiative geared to promote healthy lifestyle, and we saw representation from various sporting and exercise groups, as well as government and non-governmental bodies. I think Minister Evelyn was there, Minister Brand was there, I was there as well as members of the cabinet. Who else? Mr. Jeffers, yes, I saw him when he was doing the soca dancing. Yeah, he was there for sure. And we were there. The Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris, our Prime Minister, he was in attendance and he declared the event open. And just to say yet again that one of the main initiatives that we have been pushing from the Ministry of Health, not just now, but for the past few years, is to encourage our people to lead healthier lifestyles. The idea is that if people lead healthier lifestyles, moderate exercise, healthier diets, that it will delay or in some cases maybe prevent the onset of some of the diseases that are causing the most problems for us, particularly NCDs, non-communicable diseases. So we have hypertension, we have diabetes. All of these are lifestyle diseases to a great degree. And hypertension and diabetes lead to morbidity, they lead to amputations, they lead to blindness, they lead to renal failure. And you then have the need for the very expensive dialysis. Now, just to think that if you were to eat less of the cook-up, you were to drink less of the alcohol, try and do with less of the sugar and salt, and go out in the mornings or in the afternoons and do moderate exercise, that you can prevent the onset of some of these diseases. And just to put it in context for you, for patients who are on dialysis who are accessing that treatment in Sinkits, you need treatment 2 to 3 times per week, and the cost is $800 per treatment. I think even the wealthiest of us would not be able to sustain that for very long. So you're talking about $2,400 per week just to go on the machine and to prolong your life. And so we are appealing to our people that the things that we eat, the fried fish and all of that, tastes good. I like it myself. But we have to be practical and sensible that the ongoing consumption of these things without doing the exercise and doing what we need to do leads us down a particular path which can be ruinous to our health and to our finances. I see families going bankrupt over trying to keep people alive, trying to repair once the damage has been done. So let us delay the damage, or let us prevent the damage by leading healthier lifestyles. And that is what SKN Moves is designed to do. I'm told Minister Evelyn has lost 28 pounds. 28 pounds. So he's an example I think we can all look to of somebody who, he told me somebody telling him, don't lose any more because he's disappearing. But he has lost 28 pounds and he has the discipline. That's what it comes down to. The discipline to make it happen and to lead healthier lifestyles. I have another announcement that I'm very proud of. The Ministry of Health has introduced ID bracelets at the hospital for the first time. And I want to thank a lady called Sylvia Ward from Brownhill, because she was someone who had raised this issue and had said to me that she had been at the hospital and she, having a nursing background, was concerned that people did not have the bracelets that we take for granted in other institutions, health institutions. And so she was one of those members of the community who was agitating, and I'm grateful that we have now been able to deliver. And so we now have a situation where inpatients at Alexandria will be issued with an ID bracelet. We started with the maternity ward and mothers and newborns there, and going forward we will be doing it with all patients at the hospital. So you now have an ID bracelet. Small perhaps, but I think a very important initiative, and I congratulate Madam Hazel Brandy Williams and her team. More good news, the diagnostic service at Alexandria has been further enhanced with the commissioning of a new Vision Plus DR wireless processing system. The system is an upgrade to the latest technology in digital radiography for the X-ray room. It was purchased at a cost of US $42,500. And so this is an investment that we would have made in trying to provide better diagnostic care at the hospital. After a 3-year hiatus, we welcome back Dr. Charlie Rouse and the Rouse Foundation. You would have heard about Dr. Rouse, no doubt. He was coming out of Georgia, and he was initially brought here by a wonderful lady called Ursula Phillip. Ursula has since passed on, but her daughter, who's also called Ursula, has come back with Dr. Rouse after an hiatus of 3 years. So he's a board-certified cardiologist, and he has partnered with the Ministry of Health since 2013. For the period 23rd to 26 October, his team members facilitated patient follow-up assessments and referral to at the hospital. 27 people were seen. An executive screening for leaders, managers in the public and private sector. 23 persons were screened, and they conducted a session on gerontology, focusing on the social family aspect, targeting staff from the Flamboyant Nursing Home and Social Services Senior Division. 36 persons attended. They also conducted a mini chef and parent chef academy at 2 selected primary schools. I want, ladies and gentlemen, to go on record to thank Dr. Charlie Rouse and the Rouse Foundation. These are people who are giving of their time and their expertise at no cost to us. And I'm very grateful to them for choosing Nevis and for coming back to us after an hiatus of 3 years. So I'm delighted that they're back and that they're providing this partnership. Nurses from the Alexandria Hospital and the Public Health Department attended a 3-day male nursing conference in St. Kitts on 24 to 26 October under the theme, Male Nurses, Why Not? And so I want to use this rostrum again to encourage our young men who are interested that they too can become nurses. We have a sense, a cultural feeling that nursing is only for women, and that really isn't the case. All around the world we go, we see male nurses. In fact, we have a few male nurses now as nurses at the Alexandria Hospital. I think we have one from the Philippines and we have another from the Windward Islands. But traditionally, men have shied away from that. And I'm encouraging young men especially out there to look to nursing as an option, and that is what that was about. 38 persons also went to St. Kitts to take part in a 3-day training exercise in preparation of the upcoming STEPS survey that's expected to commence in the month of November. Now, this survey is going to be important. It is going to take place, there will be 3 basic questionnaires. One will deal with socioeconomic, nutritional and behavioral information. Then we have physical measurements, height, weight, BMI, that's body mass index, and then biochemical measurements, blood sugar and cholesterol tests. The Ministry of Health is really soliciting the participation of the public. The information that is being gathered is clearly confidential. Your names will not be involved, but this information will provide us a platform with data that we can assess risk factors and allow us to better plan strategies going forward. So I want to commend, of course, the excellent work that is happening through the Ministry of Health. I am coming to the end of my opening statement. I just have a few more announcements to make. NEVLEC, I said I would get back to NEVLEC. I am very proud, ladies and gentlemen, that after a lengthy delay, that NEVLEC has now started its LED rollout, where we will be changing all of the street lights in Nevis to LED lighting. That, I think, is a quantum leap forward for Nevis because it leads to energy efficiency, consuming less. It is likely to have a positive impact on our fuel surcharge because many of you may know, some may not know, that all the lights burning around Nevis for the night, we pay for it through the fuel surcharge. So if less electricity is being consumed, it means therefore that we are likely to see less being paid by us in terms of our households and our businesses. I am advised that the Island Main Road is the initial target, together with the city center, and that they have already started, and those of you who see some very bright lights now, those are the LED lights that are going up. NEVLEC has invested in 2 bucket trucks to better enable it to do this, and I believe the entire Port Road has already been done, and I see one up by me. I don't even need to put on the lights in my house now because it's so bright from the street. So the LED lights are going to be all across Nevis. We're told that we have had the first 2,500 delivered out of a total that we expect of close to 5,000, I think, and that those will allow us enough lights to have at least one on every other pole throughout the length and breadth of Nevis, not just the main road, but the villages and everywhere else. We are also, as part of that project, hoping to change out the lights at the play fields, that they too should become LED lighting in order to save electricity. This, I think, environmentally is a good step forward for Nevis, and I want to commend NEVLEC, the manager, Mr. Pulte, and his team, because they've been moving rapidly. So please, when you see them out at nights putting up the lights, please be cautious in terms of driving, but we've waited a long time. And all of us as the ministers have people calling us, asking for lights, saying they want street lights in their communities. And we had taken a strategic decision that we would not buy any of the old lights anymore. And so for the last year, year and a half, NEVLEC did not buy any of the old lights because we knew that this project was due to come on stream. Took a little longer than anticipated, but we are now on stream. And I thank all who have been involved, the CDB, the federal government, and of course NEVLEC, for now engaging in that. I think it's a very positive step for Nevis, and certainly I'm very proud that we are embarking on that particular step. I also want to indicate something which I think is an important initiative. This government listens. This government is a government that is always seeking to do the best it can with the resources that it has. And on the 9th of October, the cabinet met, and the cabinet came up with a new policy that I would like to announce. And that new policy is that we are now will be offering as a policy a duty-free concession to persons who have represented Nevis internationally in areas of international cricket. That is whether they're test players, one-day international or 2020, those who would have represented us in the Olympics, and those who would have represented us in the World Championships. And so we're offering a duty-free concession, and that is something that we would hope that sports persons would accept, something that they would see as our effort to demonstrate our appreciation for putting Nevis on the international scene, but also we hope that it would motivate other youngsters who are coming through, that they too can access a duty-free concession, and that is every 5 years. And so I want to just say it again that the Cabinet on the 9th of October took a decision that we're introducing a new policy where if you have represented Nevis in cricket at Test ODI 2020, or you've represented us in the Olympics or World Championships, that you would be entitled to a duty-free concession on a vehicle once every 5 years. And I think that the public will debate whether it's good or bad. I think it's an excellent initiative to honor people who would have done well. And I could start to list them off, but we know them. They are iconic people here. They have done well. They put us on the map in a very tangible way. And I would hope that they would take advantage of this particular opportunity. The last matter that I will touch on is the Culturama payments. We understand that Culturama would have had its official closing, I think the 8th or thereabouts, or 10th of August. And so we are August, September, October. So we are 2 months removed from when Culturama would have ended. And we understand that vendors are already agitating, saying that they want to be paid because clearly the government owes, as the entity that puts on Culturama, we owe Culturama patrons and vendors each year. I want to assure vendors that there's nothing to be concerned about. And I say that because a lot of those who come to me making noise, I tell them, but you're a vendor every year. You've been with Culturama since Noah built the ark. So you well know what the parameters are. And we have set as a benchmark for this government that we try to settle all outstandings by the end of the year. So that is by December each year we try to settle everything that is owed. And so far we've done quite well in doing that. And just to put it in perspective, because sometimes our people, you know, they agitate. And I understand they have a right to agitate. But just to put it in perspective, and I just have a snapshot. Culturama 2004, the final payments were made in July of 2005. Culturama 2004, final payments were made in July of 2005. Culturama 2006, final payments were made in December of 2006. Culturama 2007, final payments were made in February 2008. Culturama 2008, final payments were made in January 2009. Culturama 2012, final payments were made in August 2013. Culturama 2013, final payments were made in February 2014. And Culturama 2014, final payments were made in December 2014. For Culturama 2015, 16, 17, and 18, final payments were completed by December of those years. I said that just to put it in context for our people, that the government may be slow sometimes, but the government is sure. And you will get your money. You will get your money. But your money comes consistent with the practice. You see how far back I went? I went back to 2004. That's 15 years ago. In 2004, people were forced to wait until July of the following year. That has not happened because we have set December of the same year as our target. And we'll be paying as we go. But I just want to assure the public and people out there who are agitating. Because someone called me and said that they had been asked to make a big thing about it on the radio, that people are not being paid. And I just said, let's have a little patience. The government payment, as I said, is sometimes slow, but it is sure. And people will get their money in accordance with the parameters that we have set to guide ourselves. And we'll start those payments as soon as possible. For those who still have bills out there, if you don't want any payment, that's okay. We understand and we accept the contribution to Culturama. But if you want to be paid, then please get the bills in so that we could have the final tally and be able to settle what we need to settle. But I think our track record as a government since 2015 has been good. Because 2015, 16, 17, and 18, we've all paid by December of each year for Culturama outstandings. And so I just want to assuage any concerns that people may have and to say to them that your monies are safe and you will be paid. Ladies and gentlemen, those are my opening statements. And of course, if you have any questions, I'd be delighted to take those questions.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Monique Washington, St. Kitts Nevis Observer newspaper. Going back to the Winnie situation with the seizure of the flights from Nevis to St. Martin, what impact will this have on the upcoming tourist season? And are there any plans on getting back that airline carrier? And the Vance Army Airport used to be the home of like Pier and Winnier, Liat, Sibon, and even AA at one point of time. What is your government doing to bring back a proper means of aviation to that airport? And can we get an update on BNL? Last time we were here, you spoke briefly on it, but has that company secured the funding to start that project? If yes, when will they begin? If no, will the contract between them be null and void? And what happens to the airport then? Recently, via your Facebook post, you would have visited the Charlestown Primary School, and you spoke about some aging buildings there. Now, recently, that school had their office redone. My question is, why wasn't the entire school looked at the same time and done one time instead of trying to do it piece? And can we get an update on the Treasury? When will that open? The police station, when will that open? And the Overly Pier, when will the second phase begin? Thank you.
Okay, well, you take the whole press conference, Ms. Washington. BNL, I do not have an update for you as yet. I think that is in part due to my travel schedule because I have been out. But I hope that certainly by the next time I'm here or sooner, I'll have an update for you in relation to BNL and the airport project. In relation to the Treasury building, I think the target was this year, to have that building open this year. I don't yet have a date in mind, but we'll hope to have a grand opening. It's really quite a phenomenal building, particularly when you go inside, you go on top, the views and all of that. I think that the public, once the public sees it in all its glory, that you would appreciate the effort that has gone in there. So that is still going, and there's a lot of work that's happening on the interior, and that should be done this year. The police station in Newcastle, I'm told, is now again going through the final touches. They're doing things like tiling and the interior work. So I would anticipate that too should be ready for this year. For an opening, Minister Jeffers isn't here. He's the lead on that particular project, but I would anticipate that project too, by the end of the year, should be ready. In relation to the Charlestown Primary School, we have had some reports there, as you say, of aging infrastructure. But I want the members of the press and the public to be practical. Charlestown Primary School is the largest primary school on Nevis. It would be impossible for us to do all the work that needs to be done at Charlestown Primary unless we're going to relocate the students somewhere else. And where would we relocate them to? You know, each year, this government has tried to do remedial work at the schools. Some of the work has been just that, remedial. Other work has been major works. And each year, we get abused because they say you haven't finished the work on time. But let us be realistic. School goes until June each year. And so, well, I'm hearing it whispered to me July. But the primary schools, I imagine, by the end of June, they are tapering off. So let's use June for purposes just of my illustration. And schools reopen normally the first week or thereabouts of September. So when you look at that, you have July and August, really, 1 week perhaps in September. So you have a total of what, 8 weeks to do construction. Now, I'm not a contractor, but 8 weeks to do construction is not a particularly long time, particularly for some of the major works that need to be done. If you're going to build a new block or build a new bathroom or whatever. And so we constantly have a public that says to us, the work needs to be done. And we said, yes, the work needs to be done. And then we try to do the work, the same public turns around to say, you're not doing the work and finishing it on time. And we're saying that people must recognize you only have an 8 week or thereabouts window. By the time you mobilize, you get a contractor and you get going, it's almost time to restart the term. And so even the block that you talk about, the administrative block, that was a discrete project that was done. And we got licks for that too. Because they were saying down there's a construction site. But what are we to do? Because unless we have an alternative site to house the school while we do the construction, it means that there'll be some disruption. And so that is the reality of the situation. We have had it this year at the Ivor Walters. We've had it now at the Charlestown Secondary School, where some work is still ongoing, because we understand that the time is just a very short window to do work before the new school year starts. The problems at the Charlestown Primary School are problems that, there's some issues with leaks, I'm told. There's some issues with some areas of the roof aren't sealed properly, so we have bats that are coming in some areas of the roof. So these are things that we feel can be fixed. Minister Liebert is here. He was alerted to the situation. He acted promptly. And the maintenance crew, I think, was there 2 days ago. And they have already indicated that this weekend they will start the necessary work there to do the remedial work. But I think, Ms. Washington, that the idea that you can do everything at a school during the summer is probably not practical. And it is not going to work unless we can relocate students and staff to some other place while we do that work. Or the same press is going to give us licks and say that we're jeopardizing people have their children at school in a construction zone. So it's a no-win situation. You just have to do the best you can. And that's what we've been doing, the best we can to get the projects done. The Vance Armory Airport is a headache. I'm not going to stand up here and pretend. The Vance Armory Airport is a headache. Because I have done so much to try and get some activity over there. This government has done so much. When we got into government, let us go down memory lane. We got into government in 2013, January, if I recall. The NIA then led by the Honorable Vance Amory. And when we got into government, we had one airline, Pier, with 7 seats flying from Sangwang to Nevis. 1 flight a day. Come in, bring in 7, go out, take 7. We thought that that was not adequate. And so we did exactly what you're now asking us to do. We set about trying to find alternatives and better options. And so we went out, and in short order, we got Seaborne Airlines to come. They carried, I think, 34 passengers each way. Then shortly after, we got Tradewind Aviation to come. They carried 8 passengers, but they had what they call a high-end service. They serve champagne and things like that. So they came. And we continued in that vein. But here's the problem, Ms. Washington. The people of Nevis refuse to use the service. So even now, people are bawling and saying, Winnie gone. How you could let Winnie go? Winnie has gone. You know why? Winnie said people not flying on Winnie out of Nevis. So what am I to do? I asked somebody yesterday, am I to go in town and lasso 10 people and take them over there and forcefully put them on the plane? I don't know what else to do. Because people said they want the service, and we bring the service. In fact, Seaborne was here at a cost to the government. Because every time they traveled empty, we had to pay. You and I had to pay. We had a minimum revenue guarantee with them. And it pains me, and I don't understand it. So all I can tell you, it pains me that Nevis people continue to take a boat to St. Kitts, a taxi to RLB, pay their departure tax or wherever else they pay at RLB, buy their lunch, get on the plane, and guess what? The same Seaborne plane that's flying out of Nevis. We can argue, we can debate why it's happening, but that is the reality. That people are refusing to use the service that's available at Vance Armory. So the government on the one hand is being asked, do better. And we go out and we do better. We brought traffic. We brought carriers. This government brought Seaborne. We brought Tradewind. Air Sunshine is now based here. And all of them complain and say, Nevis people, come on the plane at RLB and get off the plane at RLB and take the boat and come Nevis. Why, Ms. Washington? I don't know. But that is what we have been faced with. So, in a way, when people ask me the question, I say, well, you're giving me a basket to carry water in. You're asking me to do the impossible, because what else am I supposed to do? Because ultimately, no airline is going to come, and no airline is going to survive if they come, if people aren't using it. So when I used to get on Seaborne over here and I look around and I see 2 people on the plane with me, 1, 2. I give everybody the joke. My cabinet colleagues started hearing it because I came from Puerto Rico once on Seaborne, land in St. Kitts, and then going to come over to Nevis. We're going to spend the night and then leave again the next morning. And because I knew that the deal was that if they have less than 10 passengers, we have to pay, I start to count. So in Sangwang Airport, I start to count. I recognize 14 people coming to Nevis. I say, well, good. On this one, I know we don't have to pay anything. I think there were about 17 people on the flight. I counted 14 that I knew with a certainty they were Nevis people. And I chatted in the airport in Sangwang until we get on the flight. When we land in St. Kitts, I see 7 of them get up and start to take down their bag. So I said to them, no, the plane going Nevis. I said, it's okay, we're getting off down here. So I said, here my 14 now, gone down to Mercy 9. And Nevis have to pay. Those are Nevisians. I have sat at the Four Seasons Resort one morning and see the seaborne pilots who used to stay there, leaving to go to the Van Sam International Airport to start up their plane. And I called over there because there was a large group that was checking out. And I said, well, they must have a bumper crop going out this morning out of Van Sam. The plane left Nevis empty. Not a single soul was on the plane. And that plane flew to St. Kitts and picked up the Four Seasons passengers who had taken the ferry to St. Kitts, been shuttled to the airport and took the flight out of St. Kitts. I complained, I remonstrated, but that was the situation. So we have tried. The NTA, the Nevis Tourism Authority, came up with an ad for the airport to fly Nevis, fly local. People are not using the service. So I'm not suggesting that we'll stop trying. KPF, for example, has indicated they want to come back. I mentioned that their comeback is delayed. But I feel that Nevisians, if they really want to see Van Samri survive, have to make a commitment. They have a choice in terms of air travel, and they have to make a commitment. That, listen, we're going to use the airport. Not every time a flight pull out, they say Mark Brantley ain't doing any job. Because what else am I supposed to do? What else am I supposed to do? If I bring the flight, the plane is there, and the people refuse to use it, I don't know what else to do. And for whatever reason, the RLB has become the most popular thing for Nevisians. Some of them say, oh, well, we like the big plane now, so we want to fly to Miami. I said, okay, but why are you still going to St. Kitts to take Winnie? Why are you still going to St. Kitts to take Seaborn? When we talk to Seaborn and Seaborn starts to do the evaluation, they tell us the loads out of St. Kitts are excellent. The loads out of Nevis, Dance can't pay for the lights. But when you look inside the loads out of St. Kitts, don't know the Nevis people. So we ourselves need to make a commitment and say we want our airport to survive. It's not just about me. Because I will tell you, another government takes over tomorrow. The problem is going to be the same, you know. Unless people are willing to use the facility and use the flights that are available. So that is a concern that I have, and I think that it is something that all of us have to be prepared to invest in and make that commitment to.
Understood. What I would have noticed, well, I've traveled a couple of times this year, and what I would have noticed is that the cost to leave out of St. Kitts is much cheaper than to leave out of Nevis.
I think that's a myth. I think that's a myth. I think that we tell ourselves what we need to tell ourselves to make ourselves comfortable with the choice we're making. But to me, it's a myth, because I don't think for some people they're including all the costs. When you pay your water taxi and you pay your taxi in St. Kitts and you pay your increase, the part of tax in St. Kitts is twice what it is in Nevis, and you buy your ticket and you go, right? You're paying out of St. Kitts many times, and not that I'm bashing St. Kitts, they are sister island. But when we look at American and what American, for example, is charging out of St. Kitts, you can't get to Miami for under $1,000 sometimes. I can tell you because my wife went the other day, I was so happy she decided to go. Via Puerto Rico. She took that route. And she got a fare to Orlando for, I think, $125. We are not, in my view, opening up our eyes to the realities of the pricing, because we don't tell ourselves we're going to St. Kitts, that's the easiest way to go. We have the discussion in the cabinet all the time, and cabinet colleagues talk about when they go on, they go to St. Martin, they go to Puerto Rico, and the amount of money that they save. Was it the Deputy Premier who said that he had someone going to Texas, I think, and he saved over $1,000? going via St. Martin. The reality is that our people tell themselves it's more expensive. The other reason I hear, customs in Nevis rougher than customs in St. Kitts. I'm telling you because when I ask, why would you leave Nevis, take a boat, take a taxi, go and use a plane out of St. Kitts and then do the same, come back. Take the plane, take the boat, take the taxi, take the boat. And those additional costs and time. When you could go over here, park up, get on the plane, you're gone. And they say customs in Nevis rough. Customs in St. Kitts not as rough.
Okay.
These are the comments. So you think about cost, I hear it, but I don't believe it's always the case at all.
Okay, well, with cost, again, I'm coming back to that. As Minister of Aviation and as Premier of Nevis, is there any way that there can be some kind of dialogue between you and the airline carriers to, in a way, reduce that cost from Nevis so that persons can, feel a little bit better when purchasing their tickets instead of going over to St. Kitts?
Well, Ms. Washington, I will put it this way. If my argument is true, that when you actually look inside the numbers, the cost from Nevis is not any higher than the cost from St. Kitts. Because I think people say, what is the cost of the flight to Puerto Rico from St. Kitts? And somebody says, $500 US. And if you go from Nevis, $550. Oh, St. Kitts cheaper. But you're not adding yet the cost of getting to the dock in Nevis. You're not adding yet the cost of your boat fee back and forth. Because when you come back, you got to pay boat again. You're not adding yet your taxi fee back and forth. And you haven't yet added in, if you have to leave very early, your home, that you might have to buy breakfast on the airport in St. Kitts. If you're flying out of Nevis, now you eat your breakfast home and you take your car and you go over to the airport. You park about there, you go where you need to go. So I think that people are not looking at it. That's my suggestion, that people are not looking at it in a holistic way. People may go online, they say the flight out of St. Kitts is $550, the one out of Nevis is $600, so St. Kitts cheaper. And they just go that route. But I think that these are things that we need to look at. Is there scope to talk to them? The airlines set their pricing. In the past, what we've tried to do is to get them to do specials. Like on Christmas or Culture Armor, they might do a special. But even that, they're complaining. And let us also face it, maybe this also needs to be said. Our travel patterns as people has changed. Used to be back in the day, most of us would go to St. Martin to shop. Most of us will go to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is considered an exotic destination for us. That's a far place. Now everybody go to Miami. And that is the concern that I have because the public continually pressures me and says to me and the government, you need to do more. You need to bring airlines. But we have shown in the past that we have brought airlines. And those airlines come for a while and then they leave because our public is not using the service. So Ms. Washington, whatever you could do to help me and the media, to push the idea that people should use a service, I would be grateful for that.
The update on the second phase of polling, please.
Wally, we are unlikely to be able to undertake that until in the new year because what we have there now will have to function for the moment because, again, resource constraints. We had a choice whether we go with that or we try and fix the Pier in Charlestown. We opted to do the Pier in Charlestown because we think that had been languishing for some time. So once we find the resources, we'll do it, but we're hoping to be able to do that next year.
Good day, sir. Kenny James, KISS FM. First off, I want to commend the NIA on all the updates that you have read before. I was fashionably late because I did not know the location of this building, and I was attempting to reach the PS, but he did not answer his phone.
He was answering his phone?
No, sir.
That is not good at all. PS, you need to answer your phone.
Mr. Brantley,
yes.
I am a young man who follows you closely for various reasons. Some of those reasons are fashion, your ability to speak so fluently that you can make one believe you can turn water to wine. But most of all, your drive to make Nevis the best it can be. And I am proud to be here for the first time for one of your press conferences.
Thank you and welcome.
Now that I have warmed you up, sir. Social media, as far as one can see, was and still is a very important part of your campaign in disseminating information. Social media at this time, sir, is abuzz. It's buzzing with allegations that there appears to be some conflict within the unity government. Social media, however, is not the law, and everything there may not be accurate. That is why I'm here today to ask you, what is your position on these allegations? Sorry that my first ever question to you is so direct and even a little touchy, but I wore some socks today to show my style, hoping that you would give me a direct answer. And also looking around, I realized that for some individuals in here, socks is actually a thing. So your fashion has rubbed off. Thanks in advance.
Well, you clearly didn't see the latest pictures. I can't afford socks nowadays, so I'm now sockless. But this chatter, we have to understand a few things. Team Unity is comprised of 3 political parties: the PAM, People's Action Movement, the PLP, People's Labour Party, and the CCM, the Concerned Citizens Movement, with 3 leaders. Dr. Harris leading the PLP, Mr. Richards leading the PAM, and I happen now to be leading the CCM. Whenever you have a relationship between disparate parties, in fact, let me not even put it that way, even sometimes when it's one party, you will have issues that arise from time to time. So I don't think that there should be any concern in the public that issues might arise from time to time. I think what the public should be concerned about is whether or not those who are there have the maturity to address issues as they arise. This is a political season, and whenever you're in a political season, things are heightened. People only have to say, you can see how he look at that fellow there when he come in the room, right? And then you have a story that Tom and Jerry fighting. I am not too concerned about that because I understand the nature of our politics. I have said from this very rostrum that so far as I am concerned, the Team Unity administration has done an excellent job in St. Kitts and Nevis. Have we always done the thing that I would have liked? No. But then that is impossible to require of anybody. It is a government that clearly, because of how it is comprised, has at points to compromise. Because Dr. Harris may well feel like this is the best thing. I may feel that it's the worst thing. And so sometimes you get something in the middle. But that is the nature of politics. It's about, as I said, the art of the possible. And so I don't think that we ought to spend too much time on the chatter about division and disunity. I'm a social media junkie. I spend a lot of time looking at, because I think social media, my colleagues in government don't always agree with me, but I think social media is the way of the future. I see how Barack Obama, President Obama used it. Hillary Clinton used it. President Trump now, he prefers Twitter, but he uses it. The reality is that social media is the new medium to disseminate information instantly. I could be here now saying something. Nobody out there now needs to wonder what he said or whatever, because somebody's carrying it live, Facebook Live. You have all kinds of mechanisms that are now available. And I embrace it. I've always embraced it. As a matter of fact, my opponents used to call me the Facebook king or the Facebook minister. And they thought that they were insulting me, but they didn't realize that I liked the fact that I was a Facebook minister. And so on social media, people use it for good and for bad. And so sometimes on social media, people try to amplify and to try to say, oh, there's confusion and there's whatever. I don't think that there's any confusion. I think that on matters of principle, there can sometimes be disagreements or differences in approach. But I don't think that unity has any confusion, certainly not on my part.
Thank you very much, sir, for your straightforward answer. I am also a member of a team out of St. Kitts called Team Disgusting. It is a racing team. Now, listening to what you just mentioned about the airport here in Nevis and divisions leaving Nevis to go to St. Kitts to use the Robert Elbacher International. Now, Nevis hosts the only racing track in the Federation. As far as I know, they try to put on at least maybe 4 to 5 events a year. Now, Kittitians, we leave St. Kitts and we come over here because that is the only time we actually get to legally race. As I said, I was fashionably late, but I heard you speaking about the roads on my way over via my phone. And one thing you said were to individuals, the roads may look smooth, they may look wide, do not race. Is there any plans by your government to improve the conditions of the St. James Raceway anytime soon?
Well, that's a good question. Of course, my answer to you would be that we have competing sporting disciplines on the island. And we have, as a government, already spent some money at the St. James Raceway. I think we lengthened it slightly. We added lighting. We added some new safety features. We added a new, what they call it, Christmas tree. The lighting system, the starting system, I'm sorry. We added a new PA system. All of that came at a cost, certainly to us. For a fraternity, which is an important fraternity, the racing fraternity, but a fraternity which is still a small fraternity on the island, we have separately those who are involved in athletics, who are saying to us, you have spent $10 million at the Mondo track, you now need to do the stadium over there to complete the project. We have those who are playing cricket who said to us, ETW Park is in a bad state, you need to be able to bring ETW up to world-class standard. You have the netballers, the tennis players, the basketballers. We have, for example, been trying to spend money on all the courts around Nevis to resurface them and bring them back to life. I say all that to say that much as we would like to have the resources to do all that we need to do, we don't. And so we do not have any immediate plans to do any further upgrades at the St. James Raceway because we are trying to do some expenditure in other areas for the upcoming year in terms of some of the other sporting disciplines. So I mean no discourtesy when I say that, but I simply just say that when you don't have enough resources, you have to try your best to spread it around. And you know your numbers are growing, then maybe you all can put something together and take over the track for us, manage it, spend the money on it, and take the government out of the car racing business altogether. I would be very interested in talking to people who might be interested in doing that. Right? Well, that's music to my ears. Music to my ears.
Pleasant good morning to one and all. Marvin Ross from Brown Radio. Premier Brantley, are you in a position to say to us and the public exactly when the construction of the homes at Hamilton will commence? Secondly, could you provide an update concerning the fire that occurred at Daniel Brantley's law firm on July 31st of this year? When will the next phase of the Bath Village Rehabilitation Project commence, and would this phase include the stretch there that leads to Vaughan Radio going to solid waste? Can you provide, Mr. Premier, an update of the new system at the Alexandra Hospital where instead of writing information in a book, it will be placed in a computer? Here in St. Kitts and Nevis, more so Nevis, there have been a number of health initiatives that have been put in place. The Agriculture Department has been advocating buy local, eat local. They have been advocating for farmers to produce more. The Nevis Moves has been launched as part of the SKN Moves, Caribbean Moves. With all of these various initiatives, recently there was a health clinic over the weekend which is based at curbing circulatory diseases. How has the public been responding to these healthy initiatives that have been put in place by the Health Ministry? And finally, Mr. Premier, there have been chatter coming from St. Kitts saying that criminals have been paid to keep the peace. Prime Minister Harris, he addressed the issue. But following that, there have been rumors. Some say they are false, some say that it is true, that individuals here in Nevis are also or have been involved in that process of being paid to keep the peace. Can you also address this issue? Thank you.
Could you, before you go, paid by whom? Could have been paid by?
The government. That's
Which
what
government?
they've been saying. St. Kitts Nevis government.
So the federal government?
Yes.
St. Kitts, okay. Thank you. The reason I asked the question is because I too have heard, as you put it, the chatter. And you did say that the Prime Minister has answered. And he is the Minister of National Security. So I'm unsure as to why the question is coming to me. Because if there's an allegation that criminals are being paid by the federal government, he's the head of the federal government and he would have answered that allegation. And so I'm not sure if you're expecting a different answer from me. I'm not the Minister of National Security. I'm not the Prime Minister. And so he would have answered that, I'm sure. My understanding is that there is a program that is in place. It's a program that was initiated at the invitation, let me use that language, of some of our at-risk youths who, after we had a spate of killings in February of this year, came forward and said, listen, they are endangered species, they need to have a conversation. I gathered that conversation ensued with interlocutors, not with the government directly, but with intermediaries. And that conversation has led to an understanding now that instead of continuing down a path of crime and criminality that some of them appeared to have been on, that if they have projects, if they have various business ideas, etc., that the government will seek to partner with them in order to redirect their energies into productive use and productive areas of the society. My understanding is that that is what has happened. For example, in Nevis, I'm aware that a group of youngsters have got together in a particular area in Nevis. They are farming, they are burning coals, they are raising rabbits. I didn't know that Nevis people eat so much rabbit meat, but apparently rabbit meat is now a big thing. They are engaged in something useful and productive, and that is what we're seeking to encourage. If that constitutes paying people to keep the peace, then I don't know. But my understanding is that we are not paying anybody to keep any peace. We're seeking instead to redirect people into productive activity rather than, you know, the old saying that the devil, what they say, find work for idle hands. And so we are trying to make sure nobody's hands are idle, but that people are engaged. And what I have seen, certainly coming, are some very interesting business proposals. Let us face it, a lot of our young people have ideas, but no bank will ever fund them. That is the reality. Because when you go to the bank wants collateral, they want insurance, they want this, they want that. You're not going to get through. Banks exist to lend people who already have money. All right? So, when you have an idea and you can't get through, you didn't come out of school with the 10 and 15 subjects, you fall into a particular category, and people start to feel marginalized. And so this is an effort to bring people out of that and to say to people, listen, there are alternative ways that you can make a living, that you can support your family and have a fulfilling life. And I think that sometimes when we hear the chatter, to use your language, about people being paid, I say to people all the time, you know, we have a choice to make, because every single year the national security budget has had to be increased. So we're either going to have a policeman in every corner, CCTV, the biggest jail that we could build, and all of that, or you're going to try other strategies. And one of these strategies is to see if you can get people to adjust, change course, and do something that is productive. So that is what we've been trying to do. And I think the results so far have been good. I'm hopeful that those results continue to be good, and that parties who we understand were hitherto at war are now coalescing, now greeting each other, now being able to walk about. And I will tell you, as a Premier of Nevis, I have had youngsters approach me and ask for work. And I have said, okay, let me look. And I remember one youngster, I said, you know, I found something for you to do. And I told him where. And he was a youngster who called me every day. I admired his persistence, because every day he called. You find anything for me yet? When I finally found something for him and told him where, he stopped calling. And I thought that was odd, because he was so interested in working. So I finally called him after a few days of silence. And he admitted he can't go in that area. So he wants the job, but he feels unsafe if he were to go to that particular area where the job was located. I believe that that is now gone, that element. And I'm hopeful that that will continue. And so we can get to a new normal in the country. Culturama this year was the biggest Culturama. It hurts my heart to say so, because I was Minister of Culture before. But the one this year was the biggest Culturama that we've ever seen in Nevis. And there was not a single incident. That, to my mind, has to count for something. Not a single incident for Culturama 2019. And so we're reaping what the people are referring to as the peace dividend. That people now feel comfortable, they can go and walk about, they can go to the shops and the restaurants, they can go to the bars and lime till late. I think all of this is important. And so when I hear the chatter, I say, listen, at the end of the day, what do we want in the country? We want a peaceful existence where you can feel comfortable to walk about with your family and live a peaceful life, secure, that our tourists and those who visit can feel comfortable? Or do we want the mayhem that we had before? And that, I think, is something that we ought to think about. The housing in Hamilton, I'm told that January 2020, that we should start the constructions there. The fire at Daniel Brantley, we're still waiting for the report from the police as to what their conclusions are. The Bath Village Road, I think that we're looking at the designs. The difficulty that we've had is that the upper road for Bath Village is a little complex because a lot of houses are built very close to the road. And so we have to evaluate very carefully what we can do there in terms of costs, because I think that those properties, along after you pass Alfred Shop and the big tamarind tree, and you're going back, you're going to have some engineering is going to be critical. And then at other areas, when you go in the mud and those areas, you have issues of flooding and water cascading down there. So all of that needs to be looked at. So I'm told that that work is ongoing at the moment. The new information at Alexander, well, we are trying to go to a paperless system. I think we have the cabinet has approved a system. The Taiwanese had started something, and we're looking at a group now, I think, out of Trinidad to come in and to assist in trying to get us to that system where everything is inputted. And so remember, we had, about 3 years ago, we announced the card that people would have, patients now have a card, so that if, God forbid, you were to collapse in Bastille, by scanning that card, they would know exactly what medication you're on, etc. So we are looking at that. What else did you ask me? I think that's it. Health. What did you ask me about it?
The initiatives.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, the health initiatives. I don't know what to say. I think that a lot of the initiatives we're doing, some of them, like SKN Moves, are new. Others, of course, we've been promoting for some time. I think the people at the Health Promotion Unit have been doing a wonderful job. In fact, just yesterday, when I was at the Charleston Primary School, I was surprised to see workers from Health Promotion was there talking to the students at the various classes. So they're going into the schools and into the classes, talking to them about similar things like obesity and what they should eat and shouldn't eat, as the case may be. So I think that these lifestyles are things that always take time, that we would have to look and give it time to see whether we can impact through positive messaging people's lifestyles. And you and I know that when we're young especially, we feel strong. We feel that we're invincible. It's only after you start to get a little older and you slow down a bit that you start to think about. So simple things that we invite people to every year, for example, do a checkup. Women to do your mammogram, your pap smears. You know that, for example, if people were to do pap smears, that we could almost eliminate cervical cancer. It's detected early, it's one of those cancers that is 100% curable. But a lot of our women don't, and pap smears are available all over Nevis for free. The hospital, at the clinics, for free. So we need to take responsibility for our own health. And the government will certainly continue to promote and to encourage and to partner as we try to get a healthier Nevis.
With regard to the peace initiative, Mr. Brantley, you indicated that some of the ideas are related to assisting these at-risk youths towards business. Mm-hmm. Would this program be something that is continuing? Let's say the government is to provide financial aid. Would this be a one-time payout? Would it be an ongoing thing over a period of time? How exactly would that process be carried out?
Well, the idea is if you feel you have a viable business, then we don't see any need for you to have any ongoing assistance. You get assistance to set up your business. Your business is intended then to sustain itself and sustain you. The idea is that a lot of these at-risk youths were locked out of the system. They were locked out. They couldn't get a loan. They couldn't whatever. Everybody say you're a bad boy. They're not going to employ you. And that was the reality. So now that they have an opportunity through this type of initiative to get funding to set up a little business, a little car wash, a little whatever, the expectation is that they will then be able to sustain themselves. So I don't see that this will be an ongoing effort at all, because the effort is to get people into a productive activity, and then that productive activity sustains them.
Seeing that that is the case, is the government or whoever it is that is providing the assistance in collaboration, would there be guidance for these individuals to set up their businesses? Because yes, it's going to be on them to ensure that they put in the work, but it could also be looked in the way that, let's say the business falls through, they may then in turn want to turn back to a life of criminality. So would there be guidance for these at-risk youths in them setting up their business?
Well, the short answer is yes, and quite a bit of guidance is being provided. We have teams. We have a team on St. Kitts. We have a team on Nevis. I think the team on Nevis is a 4-person team, and they have been very involved. We have, of course, a small, forgive me, the small enterprise development unit that's available in Nevis as well to provide guidance, assistance. So the short answer to your question is yes. The idea is that you get people involved in productive activity, and yes, you provide the guidance, you provide the assistance throughout the course by way of technical advice and technical support.
Thank you very much, Mr. Premier.
I have one last question.
Yes.
For the majority of the morning, you kept speaking about resources, finding the money to do this and the money to do that. The budget is coming up. Are we looking at increased taxes, new taxes, or anything like that?
What would be your recommendation, Ms. Washington? I have not yet, we have not yet sat and settled on those matters, but I would not anticipate that we would have any new taxes for this year. I recognize that Nevis has just come to a very bad year, very difficult year with the closing of the Four Seasons, and then later the sudden closing of Brownhill Communications. I think that we have to be realistic in terms of what people can sustain, and we need to give people and businesses a breathing space to recover. What I'm hearing in terms of our cruise season, it looks quite good on paper. Last year we had 62 calls, bringing a total of 6,200 passengers. This year we have 65 calls, not many more, but the size of the ships is much bigger. So this year we're expecting 14,485 passengers, which plus crew would probably bring us to about 23,000 people who should be descending on our shores via the port. We then, of course, have the Four Seasons, which has just reopened. They're still frantically trying to finish some last aspects of their construction, but they're saying that they'll be fully ready by Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is November, end of November. They'll be ready for Thanksgiving. And they're saying that on paper, they're having the best season ever. So from December until July, a matter of fact, they're saying that July of next year, they're still at 70% occupancy, which is unprecedented. So if that pans out, I think that Nevis should have an opportunity to recover from a difficult year. Just yesterday, last evening, Mr. Hanley, Permanent Secretary Hanley, and his team and I, we met with the taxi drivers to try and ready them for the season at hand, and we hope that they heard the message that we delivered. That is an opportunity for them to earn, and we hope to earn well during this upcoming season. So I've probably said more than I needed to say, but I don't anticipate that there'll be any new taxes unless the technical team advises otherwise, and I hope they don't advise otherwise. Yes, so the messaging is that the taxes that are due, we want people to pay. Rather than us having to impose additional taxes, we want to collect the taxes that are due. And we still have a high degree of delinquency where people are refusing to pay their share. So we would want to encourage people to do that. Okay? It doesn't appear that there are any other questions. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. You did help me to keep this shorter than normal. And so I am delighted that you have come, that we've had an opportunity to have a chat. And I certainly look forward to being here again and to seeing you again on the next occasion that we have a press conference. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you.